I don't think the music industry really understand what I am doing here. And I'm going to explain why on this video. And because of that, this video is going to be very, very contentious. And I don't know how many bridges I am going to burn in doing this. But sometimes you do need to burn bridges. And sometimes you need to burn bridges because it's better for you to keep going forward than to, you know, have a planned escape going back, because there is no back. And I think when we say the word music industry, what we have there is what's known as an oxymoron. And there are many of those in the music industry. Well, many morons anyway. I'll explain the joke. Right, so what's made me think this, okay? There's a whole one. This has been going on since I had the channel. My dealings in the music industry were very fringe. I played on some albums, I've played with some big artists, but never ever did I do anything where I could, say, be wealthy and make a decent living out of music. And a lot of the time I have to recourse to teaching and other things to make ends meet. But there were certain points where I made a living by, you know, carrying a drum kit around the world and sitting and playing it. And I'd managed to do that a couple of times for a few years at a time. But the industry, I never felt like I could get into it. The industry itself always seemed to me to be very cliquey, which of course all things are. Now, a lot of people think that money makes the world go round, but I think there's one commodity which is even greater than money, and it's status. And status links to celebrity. Being famous is a commodity which in itself will just make money. And the music industry, once it had established its greater good, those people got used to being in that situation, and they toddled along expecting that the very name of them or the bands that they're in, you know, or the organisations or the hit singles that they were linked to should owe them a living. And in a way, over time, rock and roll, which started out as a sort of music of teenagers, it was like faddish. It was people just trying to jump on a bandwagon. It was here today, gone tomorrow. As an idea, it established itself. And as time went on, there's a clique there. And I really believe that really was consolidated after Live Aid. The original rockers at that point were approaching 40, you know, people like the Rolling Stones, you know, and the Beatles, those guys were in their 40s at that point. And they had to change the name of the game. And you could see that going on in the 1980s. And the idea of the rock star that does good, I think lays the groundwork to people turning around going, I think that person's a great person. They're a good egg. And before you know it, they're a legend. They're a living legend. And a whole mystique emerges around rock and roll where they could have done all sorts of things, been drug takers, womanizers, done all sorts of stuff. But it doesn't matter because that's rock and roll. Sex, drugs and rock and roll is very good indeed, as Ian Jury once said. So that's what it is. It's a clique of people. And this clique have got older and older. And the music industry over the last 20, 30 years has been dying. And the bits that are still existing have been taken over by organisations that actually aren't part of the music industry. They're just part of industry now. They're part of media conglomerates. And the music aspect has just been swallowed up into the world of the media, the same as photography and jingles and, you know, set design. It's just another commodity now in it. But there is that elite there. And, you know, it still works on that. And the momentum is still going. Now, a friend of mine, really fantastic drummer, I won't mention his name, but he messaged me this morning. I haven't heard from him in a while. And he said, I'm coming to the UK. Are you going to go to the London drum show in October, a couple of weeks? And I said, I doubt it. And he said, why? And I said, because I haven't got any interest in being in that world anymore. And as I said it, I knew that there was there's a bit of, on my side, a little bit of spite, a little bit of to that world. And I thought, why have I got that? And I thought, you know why? Because I've always felt completely excluded from it. And I tell you why I felt excluded from it. I felt that it was an impenetrable club, and the only way you could really get into that club was by somehow having a hit record or being in a band and basically acquiring not talent or skill, but fame. And once you're in that select club, you're in that club, okay? And when we look at the London Drum Show, all the drum companies will be down there, all the cymbal companies, all the drummers will be walking around, and there will be a little bit upstairs where the sort of artists, and there'll be certain drum superstars, the ones who are playing, they'll be in there. So they're kept separate. They can come down, you know, they can come down like Jesus from the Mount, you know, and walk around with a hoi polloi and sign some autographs. But they will go upstairs. And my friend who messaged me, he could obviously get in upstairs. So he said, I won't be down with the hoi polloi, because it is a lot of young boys hitting drums over and over again, and it does give you a massive headache. And nobody wants to hear it, but everyone wants to go and hang. And the reason why they want to hang is just because your mates are there, but also it's a networking thing. It's the whole thing that the industry is. It's what we've been involved with the whole time. Now, this is where I am now going to state what I'm about to state, and I'm going to give you lots and lots of examples. I am going to sort of name names on this video because I think this is the whole YouTube thing and we should be doing this. I am going to explain that these people aren't doing this out of vindication to me, or they don't like me, or they may not like me. It's understandable. There's a lot of people who don't like me, as you know, but I don't think that's what it is. I think what it is that basically YouTube and the wider realm of the internet, which now is how you make money out of all this stuff, music and everything that it's attached to, they don't really understand. And so when they approach that, they are still approaching it from the idea of celebrity and fame and status, okay? And it's quite obvious that us YouTubers do not have the status within the music industry that someone who's been in a famous band has. Now, the reason for that is because they just can't compute it. They can't compute it, and they have done it for so long, and it's atrophied, and they are holding on to the last little bits of it before it all falls away and doesn't exist anymore. And they're going through the motions like a cargo cult where you just keep doing the same thing over and over again. When I first got into this, you know, I was doing drum clinics. I was doing clinics alongside people like Billy Cobham and Simon Phillips and Omar Hakim, a whole bunch of incredible players. You go to these drum events and they would be huge. And as I was in this and the internet started to get hold, because you've got to understand in the drum world, the internet also affected it in the same way that live streaming did, because you used to have music shops, and because you had music shops, you had to have if you were making, say, drums in China, you had to take your drums, then send them over to the UK, house them in a certain place, which would then be an industry to house those. And then they would distribute those to certain shops, and there would be reps going out to the shops. So that's a huge, great big industry. Now, you just go on to whatever the website is of your choice, and you just click. And those guys have been able to control the profits in that, and the profit margins that are paid for the reps and the shops and the distributors has really eroded away. And these drum events, these sort of music events, the same as NAMM and things like that, they're all based around that money stream, and it's still there, but it has shrunk. People that I work with for years and years have gone. They've just given up. Exactly the same thing. The internet has affected it in the same way. Now, where are we? So, what I'm about to say is, I don't think it's because the people in this are being vindictive or nasty. I am really saying this. I'm going to say it in a harsh way because they don't seem to understand how this works anymore. They don't understand what I'm doing whatsoever, and they don't understand how YouTube works. And I'm going to give you a couple of examples. I mean, you can see I'm stalling because this is going to be contentious. It's going to be contentious. I can't help but do it. I'm one of these people who just have to say what I see. If I'm wrong, someone could come along and say, well, it's not quite like that, Andy. You know, the reason why, nobody wanted to deal with you is because we think you're a twat. And I'll go, oh, I didn't realise that. I thought it was something else. And I'll come on and explain that. If they come and tell me that, I will say that and come along and say that. But even then, I'll have to say, you know how I'm a twat in real life? Well, in real life, I come across as a twat, but my twattishness when put onto YouTube, is quite compelling. And you might not understand my very clever use, arrogant though it may be, of the twattishness that I utilise to make a successful YouTube channel. Right, so my friend rings up. I'm going to go to the London Drum Show, but I'll stick upstairs. Oh, so you're obviously getting a ticket from somewhere. Why come you get the ticket, you know? Now, nobody has contacted me. Now, why should they? Why should they email me, say, Andy, you want to come to the drum show? No one's thought of it sending me along, right? And I don't mind that, and I don't want to go. And if they do send it me now, I won't go out of spite. No, I've got other things to do. I just can't afford to do it because I do this all day long, right? Now, I am endorsed from the old days when I first got the gig with Robert Plant. Tama came and approached me. I just happened to have a contact there, and a great man called Mark DeClute, who also happens to be the drummer with EMF. He was working for Tama, and he approached me and he supported me. This is what you need, is an artist guy that supported me. And once he got to know me, he realised I wasn't just playing with Robert Plant, but I could talk and I could play the drums. So my career as a sort of YouTube actually starts there, where I was getting up and standing in front of 1,000 people and trying to do lots of drum solos and impart some drum knowledge. But I realised right back then, this is nearly 25 years ago now, that there needs to be some humour, there needs to be some chat, and I started to think about that back then. So Mark is such an important guy for me, but he was supporting me back then. So if the London Drum Show was on, he would have said, you know, do you want to come down? And they would have got me something to do based upon my talents. As time's gone on, I am now endorsed to companies which I absolutely love. And a lot of this is based upon my past record. People know me a little bit. And so really, I know I shouldn't have an endorsement in their measure of things. I shouldn't really have, because I'm not in a band anymore. I don't play on albums, and I'm old, and they hate that. You know, if you're 20 years old and you're in a sort of metal band that's got a very, very small following, they'll sign you up, right? I could be talking to 1 million people on here a month, but that doesn't mean anything. But you can be going around playing to 250 people in various clubs playing metal, and you're young and you've got a trendy haircut, and they'll sign you up. And I always found this so strange. Anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself, right? So I am endorsed, and I'm going to give them. This is the whole point of this, you see. I am endorsed drum-wise to the British Drum Company. Now, as far as I'm concerned, the British Drum Company are the greatest drums in the world. That's why I signed up with them. When I learned how they were made, this is the Bugatti of drums, handmade drums. Every single detail. They're absolutely beautiful drums. Incredible sound, pure, and I mean the snare drum, the aviator snare drum they've got me. I've got about 10 snare drums. I used to use them all, all top end snare drums. I only use that one. I cannot tell you how great the British Drum Company is. The drums are incredible, and I'm very proud to be endorsed by them. But here I am on my YouTube with very little effort, selling directly to thousands of people about that drum kit, right? Now, I'm also endorsed to a less well-known company as well on the cymbal side called Dream Cymbals. Now, Dream Cymbals, the artist guy there is a guy called Adam Gamage. I know Adam well. He's got a much bigger gig than me, but he has really supported me. Basically give me a cymbal deal because he knew I'd got no cymbals, and he knew that I could play and I was a reasonable player, and he thought I should have some cymbals. I've done some clinics for them, but the reason I wanted to be endorsed with Dream Cymbals is that I have to be honest, in my younger days I did jump around a bit. I started with vinyl cymbals that are fantastic. I then moved to Zildjian cymbals, which are the sort of classic cymbals, I moved to Dream Cymbals and then UFIP cymbals. And I have to be honest, when I took stock, and I thought, what cymbals would I want to play if I had the choice? It would be Dream Cymbals. And so I endorsed Dream Cymbals. And the Dream Cymbals are absolutely incredible. They're priced really reasonably, but the sound is unbelievable and they are leading the way. I interviewed Paul Wertico from Pat Metheny's band. Now, he's famous for playing 2 flat rides, and it's a cymbal sound that I fell in love with. I've always owned flat rides because of Paul Wertico. Paul Wertico is now signed up to Dream, and they have made him a custom flat ride. That, if Paul Wertico has gone to Dream to get his flat ride, that's a testament to how great they are. So now I've sold the Dream cymbals on this channel here. Also, I play Remo drum heads. Now, I've used all sorts of drum heads over the years. The only ones I've ever been able to get the sound I want out of is Remo. Some drum heads sound great. I won't name names, but they wear out very quickly, and I don't like that. Some drum heads don't wear out, but they're so thick and clunky that they've got no tone. Remo have the tone, and the range that you have with Remo, for me, is the standard range. So I know what I'm dealing with an ambassador head or a pinstripe head or a diplomat, you know, like, what is the other one called? Is it the Emperor? Anyway, I know those grades of heads. I know all the combinations, the black, they're classic, this classic. And for me, with a drum kit, the drum kit has to be well made, and it has to have all the right things on. The hardware is really important, and the drum heads are so important to the sound. So I have now done the sell here. I don't need to go to the London Drum Show, the British Drum Show, or whatever it's called. Don't even know what it's called. In October. Go to it. It'll be very interesting. If you want to, you know, step into the drum world, go there. I'm selling that now. The point is, without obviously just being an advert, I can talk from the heart about what I love, and I can sell the product. Okay? And I basically could have in the background here, now you see in the background here, there's all sorts of things. I'm a big fan of Shure microphones, and you can see a little logo sticker, and sometimes that's in the thing and sometimes it isn't. When I first started this, I was always filming and always putting my drum stuff behind me, so it was in every single video. Now, I tend to do 500,000 to 1 million views a month. I have a hardcore fan base of around about 100,000. You're not all subscribed, but you do seem to come back regularly. So please, if you're not, subscribe. And so very easily, I could be for no cost, no like paying for stalls at the British Drum Show and all that type of stuff, adverts in magazines. I could be pushing the product. So I often wonder, do the companies know what I'm doing here? And if they do they understand how this works? Because for me, if I was working in the world of drums, I would not be bothering with drummers in bands, because anybody who does YouTube realize that musicians no longer have the status and the upper hand, right? If you're a Rick Beato with 5.5 million and you know, subscribers, that's the top end. That's the biggest there is. That guy is the top end, and a part of that is because he's a brilliant YouTuber, but also Rick knows everything. He just does know everything. He knows about bloody harmony and guitar scales and jazz and production. He knows about bloody compressors and bloody all that sort of stuff. And he even knows loads. He knows more about me than drums. He knows about the wood and the heads. He knows absolutely everything. And YouTubers, we're a breed like that. So if Rick came on and said, this is a great snare drum, I'll believe him. And I'm a drummer with 40 odd years experience. But if he says it and they don't seem to understand that the authority has changed regarding YouTube, it's not just the fact that we've got the bloody audience there. You know, I'm sure that if you took at the big drum companies, they'll have a drum channel, and some of them have been very clever in doing this, and they will be able to reach directly through their own social networking that audience. But it's their audience. Everybody who's signed up to them is because they already like and know the product. If you want to reach out, it's got to be done something else. Now, I'm so involved in YouTube, I've studied it so deeply, I understand how it works. I keep going out into the industry and saying, you know, this is how it works. They don't want to know, they don't want to listen. So let's move from the world of drums to the world of prog. I used to work in prog, you know, quite a lot. I got quite known in the sort of neo-prog world. I played with IQ and Frost, and I played with Magenta, and I've I've done, session work with a lot of the main sort of, and I'm boasting here now, but that's the case. So, I think when this channel started, the first leg up I had is that people had just, subscribed to it because I was the drummer with IQ. Now, the big magazine for prog is Prog Magazine. Everybody wants to be in Prog Magazine. People email me, I can't get in Prog Magazine. It's like this, and it's all politics. And, they're trying their best to do what they do. But they're a magazine. Now, I'm pretty sure that I have a bigger reach now than Prog Magazine, right? But no prog bands, except for very close mates, nobody approaches me about coming on. No management companies are saying, do you want to interview this guy? I'm having to go out to get the interviews. Now, I tell you this, if I interviewed a prog legend, that would not do the views. Go back and check. What gets the views on here is me acting like a fool and saying, which musicians I think smell. The top 10 smelliest musicians. That's what they get the views for. I've interviewed John Anderson. It doesn't get bigger than that in the world of prog, and it was a great interview, and it did okay. But it's not the biggest thing on my channel, because my channel is not about them, it's about me, and it's about my relationship to these people. When I've interviewed stars of the music world, and we've actually talked about something else, I had Brian Tatler on here, and he went through his favourite albums, and that combination was wonderful. Plus, Brian is great at YouTubing. He works when he talks. That's another thing, is that they need to know the artists they got that will work well. Martin Taylor's another one. He's like a stand-up comedian. He's like a raconteur. These are brilliant people that should be on YouTube because they do a really good job. And the industry doesn't seem to understand this. So I've wondered why the prog world's not come my way, why the bands haven't come my way, why the labels. Now I'm connected right into all of this, and yet nobody has said, is there anything that, having said that, Ken Golden over in, because he works with Sea of Tranquility, he has sent me albums, and I've pushed certain albums for him, and we've worked in the past, and I think I've been able to sell some CDs and vinyl for him. Where's the prog world, right? And I would have thought that me being, and this is starting to sound bitter, but me being a progressive rock drummer who's moved over to being a YouTuber, which I know is what is unique about me amongst the world of prog YouTubers, the Sea of Tranquilities, the classic album reviews, the notes reviews, and the prog corners, and all those people, is that I was a prog drummer. So where are the prog magazines coming and knocking at my door? They don't, because they don't see me in that anymore, because I've moved on. Oh, Andy doesn't do prog anymore. He made an announcement, right? Louder Music, which owns Prog Magazine, when I last year said, I'm not going to play in any of these bands anymore, it's a waste of time, without having to push it myself, I made their website. It became a news story. The fact that I wasn't playing in bands was more of a news story than what I am doing here, which is reaching millions of people who love prog. Now let that digest. Okay, now the one thing that is difficult for me is that the biggest thing I've ever done in terms of my music career was play for Robert Plant. I played for Robert Plant for about 2 years. I still have contacts with Robert, and his new band Saving Grace has two guys that I know very, very well, Matt Worley and Tony Kelsey. Great musicians, lovely guys. Now, Tony Kelsey, I believe, watches the channel. So, Tony, if you're watching, hi there. Oh, I just banged the mic. Hello, Tony. So, Tony is playing with Robert at the moment. Now, here we are, 4 years in, with all the stuff I've done here. I would love to have Robert on the channel. It's the obvious one to have, isn't it? And knowing Robert as I do, I would love to create something that is absolutely unique, which is unlike anything that he normally does. In other words, I don't really want to talk about Led Zeppelin. I don't really even want to talk about his career. I've got a whole bunch of things that I genuinely want to ask him, knowing that he is an absolute music expert on Americana, the blues, the psychedelic music of the 1960s, the sort of San Francisco, but there's a whole world, and he not only understands all that, but he represents it. He represents the very thing that made rock music, and yet he has also rejected it at the same time. And I want to do that interview. This is a plea. This is a plea now, right? And I'm going to see how far this reaches, because, you know, I haven't really done that much to try and get an interview with Robert. I don't know whether he wants to not come on or come on. I don't know. Maybe he doesn't want to come on. But I'm utilising the power that I've got here, if I've got any, to see if this reaches him, right? This route. Because if it reaches him, then it might be worth considering this. Yesterday, clicked on Facebook and I saw a post where Robert Plant had done an interview with a YouTube called The Raconteurs. Now, The Raconteurs is Guy Pratt and what's his name? From I got the hard one. Guy Pratt's a session player. I think he did a little bit with Pink Floyd at some point. And then the bloke from Spandau Ballet, there's brothers Martin thing, and then there's him, who's Gary something. See, I can't remember his name. So this is really bad. Bloody hell! It looks like I'm being nasty in doing this. I'm not. I'm just having a senior moment. Sorry about this. Let's just Gary Kemp, the great Gary Kemp. You know, the Martin and Gary Kemp. They were the brothers. They played the Cray Twins. You know, he's a great guitar player. Currently playing with Nick Mason in Sourceful of Secrets. I know all about him. I just forgot his name. So Robert appeared on there, which meant he appeared in person. He's gone down. Had to do all the stuff. I don't know. Now, looking at the Raconteurs YouTube, they have 22,000 subscribers. I have nearly 60. I am 3 times the size. Let that sink in. I am 3 times the size. Now, looking at Gary Kemp and Guy Pratt, they've got a nice little YouTube, but I would have my advice about it because I've watched it and it's not really holding me that much. Because they're musicians and they know where the bread's buttered. They're trying to get into this. Billy Corgan's done the same for Smashing Pumpkins. I've watched that. These guys are great musicians. They know where the industry is. These people understand it. But can they make compelling videos? Can they make something where someone switches on and they stay? Because that's the key. And that's the knowledge you need. And that is what YouTubers do. That is what I do here, is try and create compelling titles with attractive thumbnails that people click on. And then when the conversation starts up, they stay. Because first off, I deliver what they want, right? I got this from Mr. Beast. How many musicians of a certain age are sat there reading every Mr. Beast interview out there? I did when I was doing this YouTube, to work out how they work and how they come along. Now, you've been lured here because my thumbnail will say something like, this is a contentious video. So you go, what's this? You know, and if I get that in the title, you'll all come and see it, and then you're going to stick around. Hopefully the conversation's interesting. Hopefully you've learned 3 things, because it's always good to have a YouTube in 3 parts: the drum world, the prog world, the Robert Plant world. And then we've arrived at this thing with me sort of imploring. Now, of course, I know how the industry works. Why is this happening? Because Gary Kemp and Guy Pratt, they're part of the elite. They're part of the clique. They're trusted. And what that shows to me is that I'm not. Somehow I am outside it. Now, you could say, well, why is that? Is it because you're not a very good drummer? No, I don't think it's that at all. In fact, I would hazard a guess that in the world of sort of celebrity drummers, I don't come in as being worse technically than most of them, if let's just say that. It's nothing about ability, it's nothing about technical ability, it's nothing about experience, it's nothing to do with that. It is purely the aspect of fame and the protection of that fame. That's what it is. And I think, and this is the end of the video as we come up to half an hour now, I think the real issue here is the same thing that was affecting Rick Beato to some extent, with people trying to take him down when he's using things outside copyright. Even though he's making the money, even though he is pushing these bands that are like sinking and dying away, even though he's keeping the industry alive, they see it as a commodity. And they go, these people we've got no control of, they're not part of the clique, and they are just saying whatever they want to say about whatever they want to say. I could sit here and say whatever I want to say, and I have deliberately done that on this video now. I'm not bothered what happens. I really am not. Okay? I could stop doing interviews tomorrow. It wouldn't make any difference to my channel. There is nothing here that I need. All I'm trying to do is help. All I'm trying to do is keep the music alive, create incredible content, and bring people to this music that we all love. I love 20th century music. I love pop music, rock music, jazz. I love the blues. And as I've got older, I am fascinated by two areas, right? One is the beginnings of recording in the 1920s. And this is the jazz musicians like the Hot Fives, the Jelly Roll Mortons, and then you get the Delta blues guys. You get Blind Lemon Jefferson, you get Charlie Patton, and then Leadbelly's discovered. And Leadbelly plays a part in the creation of skiffle, and skiffle is like the punk rock that ignites this interest in the UK in black American folk music. Basically, Dylan comes out, everyone buys those second, 2, 3, 4, the second, third and fourth album, then they go back and buy the first album, they hear those songs, and before you know it, rock music is being born. And there's something about it I don't understand. There's something about it I want to understand. I want to understand how jazz starts in the 1920s, how blues starts in the 1920s. I'm interested in the Bristol sessions in 1927, Jimmy Rogers, the Carter family. I'm interested in the whole way this manoeuvres. And you see repeated cycles, and the way you can see this is what I'm interested in. I'm not interested in having people on here because they're famous. I'm interested in them saying something that is interesting. So, in decades to come, centuries to come, if this is still around, people will be able to look at it and go, what did Led Zeppelin and Cream and Jimi Hendrix and Deep Purple and Sex Pistols and Joy Division and The Cure and The Smiths and 808 State and Parliament Funkadelic and James Brown, what linked them all together? Where did they come from? And how did this happen? What was going on in the minds of the people at the time? And that generation is getting to a point where it needs to be recorded. The reason why I respect Rick Beato so much, there's a whole bunch of reasons. He is safeguarding it. He is documenting it. The stories are there before these people go. This is important historically. And there might be a very frivolous aspect to what I do. There might be lots of comedy and stuff like that going on. But also I'm trying to document at a deep level what made 20th century rock and pop music so great, and why I loved it, and why it changed my life, and why I'm now sat talking to you in front of about 3,000 albums that is my life's work collected here. Why? What binds us all together? What brings us all together? And I have the belief that underneath all the celebrity, underneath all the bloody status and this and that, what albums have you played on, how many records have you sold, have you got any Grammys, blah, blah, blah. Underneath this, we are all bound together, listeners and musicians alike, by the fact that we love this. We love this. And in there is love. It's right underneath it is love. This morning, I was watching videos of Richie Valens. There's this Mexican kid, first Mexican crossover artist. He's out there, 17 years old, kicking guitar, stinging guitar, rasping voice. His rock and roll's got a heavier backbeat than anyone else. It's really rocking, really. He's 17 years old, gets on a plane with the Big Bopper and Buddy Holly, goes down in flames. That is the spirit. That 17-year-old kid is the spirit. Bloody living legend. My father-in-law was friends with Eddie Cochran, another one. This is where it's that there. It's that thing, that feeling you have for the world when you get to a teenager. And some of us have it. Some of us, it just sticks to it. And Robert, the thing about Rob Plant I find so fascinating is a bloke from my neck of the woods falls in love with this stuff, and the pull is so strong, it just pulls him. Sorry, I keep banging it. I've got mics now, and I keep forgetting they're there. This is why. Anyway, I'm getting too animated. I'm finished there. I've got a laptop. I'm much more organised. I've got a microphone. I've got the camera here. I've got the lighting all nice. I've got my laptop in front of me. And I just looked down at the end of the video. I thought, you know what I am looking at while I'm chatting to you? There's no information. It's just a wonderful picture of George Duke, the late, great George Duke. Right, so this is what it's all about. Love you, George. Love you lot who love music. Love Robert. Love bloody all the progressive rock musicians, and I feel sorry for them because nobody likes them. I love all the drummers in the world. I hope everybody... It's all about love. You only say this, Andy, because you've been a bit vindictive. I haven't. I know on the surface I've been vindictive, but it's only because I want to be included. It's like everything else. I'm like the bloody... the Cinderella down in the basement. Nobody wants to know about me. I'm going to turn on the pathos now. I'll try my best here. I've always tried my best. I've always practiced, try to be good on the drums. Oh, it's not. I don't know. I'm always left out. I've always been left out. Always at the bottom of the. Anyway, so I think I have covered all the emotional aspects involved with this. I think this video is so important, and I hope that those of you who are involved in the industry will look at it and go, "Yeah, this is." Andy's exposed an aspect of the industry here. And he's exposed the love and the positive bit, and he's exposed the negative bits. And I think, I'm going to reinstate, I think the reason why is because the old, cranky, old age music industry just does not get it. They don't get it. And I'm sat there thinking, it's like when John Anderson was on my channel. I asked the management, does, John want to come on? And they said, no, he's not interested in doing any interviews. And then the next day he appears on some YouTube and it wasn't very good, and there wasn't any subscribers. It wasn't a great interview. And I looked down and it was John Anderson, and it had been up for 24 hours. I think it had something like 400 views. And I messaged him back saying, do you know what the hell you're doing? Not John Anderson. He just turns up and does whatever he's got to do. It wasn't John Anderson. And it could well be the case with Robert, that he is just on the sort of establishment, well, you should go on the raconteurs. Why? Well, Gary and Guy, they're old mates and they've got this duty. Could you be on it? He's doing them a favour. Bottom line, he's doing them a favour. And if they're lucky, they might get nearly half the size of me. And by the same token, I just have 60,000 subscribers. They've got 20,000. I mean, look at the album years. The album years have got companies behind them. They're being supported. You've got Tim Bonus is my friend who's on it, and Stephen Wilson. The reason why the industry is interested in that one is because Stephen Wilson's in it. But go and look at the numbers. Look at the numbers, and you'll see the industry is shooting itself in the foot at the moment. That's part of what I'm trying to say. They're shooting themselves in the foot, and I've seen it over and over. There, I've said it. Right, let's move on. So, thank you. Stick a like on it. Stick a subscribe on it. What else? I've got a Patreon. You can become a free member. You can become a paid up member. You can click down below and become a member here on this channel here. Or you can put some money in my PayPal tip jar. Plus, I have like a Substack. I've got a Bandcamp that you can become a member list to all my records. You can actually order CDs of mine over at elastistage.com. I'm selling me now. I can sell everybody. Music industry, I can sell. And there's a way of selling online, which is true, where you genuinely mean what you mean, and people go, I think Andy really believes this is the case. And that's the case. I have never done any adverts. I have never took any of that, because I can't sit here going, here's my coach that they've given me, and I like to keep. I can't do it. I can only gush about what I can gush about. I hope I've explained something about YouTube here, and I hope this does some good. That's the only reason why I've done it. Thank you for watching. See you on the next one. Bye bye.